Hello you guys, let's talk about 10.3 areas of parallelograms and trapezoids. So, the base of a parallelogram, remember I use blue to show the base. The height of a parallelogram, it has to touch the base at a right angle. Okay. Base of a trapezoid, actually they should have said bases, plural, because there's a big base, I made that blue, and a little base, I made that blue. And then the height of a trapezoid. Remember the height has to touch both bases at right angles. Okay, so the area of a parallelogram is just the base times the height. And remember, look for that right angle symbol. And so area is just base times height. In this case, it would be 8 times 6, which is just 48. Now remember, for area, the units are to the second power. So this is 48 meters to the second power. Okay, so take a look at example 1. The base of a parallelogram is 8 yards. The height is 3 times the base. Find the area. Well, I always like for you to sketch it. So sketch a parallelogram here, and the base I showed you was 8, and the height was 3 times 8, so 24 yards. And notice how I extended the base edge so that it would meet the height at a right angle. And so obviously the height was 24 yards. When we find the area, base times height, just 8 times 24, and that gave us 192. And don't forget to label it. This is yards to the second power. Okay, so take a look at the area of a trapezoid. So remember, a trapezoid has 2 bases. Now usually books call this base number 1 and base number 2, and that's fine. Go ahead and do that. Some of my students have trouble with those little 1s and 2s, thinking they're exponents, and I don't want you to do that. So I'm going to call base number 2 the big base. I'm going to use a capital B, and base number 1, the little base, I'll use a little b. So the big base is 7 centimeters, the little base is 5 centimeters, and remember, look for that right angle symbol so we can see the height. The height is 4 centimeters. And now I just use the formula. Area is the average of the bases, so big base plus little base divided by 2, times the height. So I just substituted the values in. The area is 1/2 times, and now add the bases, 7 plus 5, put that in parentheses, times 4. So I did that first, I added first, so it's 1/2 times 12 times 4, and then half of 12 is easy to do, that's 6. So 6 times 4 gave me 24, and don't forget to label it centimeters to the second power. Okay, look at example 2, finding the area of a trapezoid. The diagram shows one of the trapezoids in a floor design. Find the area of the trapezoid. So I like to use color, you know me. So I'm going to make the big base blue, and that's 11 inches. The little base is also blue, and that's 5 inches. And then I look for that right angle symbol, and I make the height red. So that's 3 inches. And then I use the formula. Area equals the average of the bases times the height. So I put 1/2 times, and then in parentheses I add the bases, 11 plus 5, times the height, which is 3. So then do what's in parentheses first. 11 plus 5 is 16. Well, 1/2 of 16 is easy to do in my head. That's 8. So 8 times 3 is 24. And then don't forget to label it. It's 24 inches to the second power because we're finding area. Okay, so look at the checkpoint. Find the area of the parallelogram or trapezoid. So this is obviously a rectangle leaning on its side, so that makes it a parallelogram. And to get the area of a parallelogram is just base times height, so I made the base blue, 16. The height red is 3, so 16 times 3 gave me 48. And then remember, area is feet to the second power. Look at number 2. It's also a parallelogram, and so the area is just base times height. So the base was 12, the height was 8, and so 12 times 8 gave me 96 meters to the second power. On number 3, when I see that there are 2 bases of different sizes, then that's a trapezoid. And so the area is 1/2 times big base plus little base times the height. So I put the 1/2, and then in parentheses I put the 8 plus 4 times the height, which is 3. So 8 plus 4 is 12. 1/2 of 12 is 6. 6 times 3 gives me 18, and then I labeled it centimeters to the second power. Take a look at number 4. This is a trapezoid, but notice how it's leaning on its side. See the bases? You always know their bases because they have to be parallel to each other. So the big base is 18, the little base is 9, and the height is 16. And so I use the formula area equals 1/2 times the big base plus the little base times the height. So I substitute the numbers in. That's 1/2 times 18 plus 9 times the height, which is 16. Now this time it's easier to find half of 16 than it is half of 27. So I'm going to do that. Half of 16 is 8, and then 8 times 27 gave me 216 inches to the second power. Alright, so take a look at example 3, finding the unknown length. The height of a trapezoid is 8 feet. One of its bases is 12 feet. The area of the trapezoid is 108 square feet. Find the other base. So always start with the formula. The area is 1/2 times the quantity of the big base plus the little base times the height. So I'm going to substitute in what I know. I know the area is 108, so I replace it. I bring down the equal sign, bring down the 1/2. I'm going to put 12 in for one of the bases, plus, and then I'll leave the little base, the little b there. And then the height is 8. So now I'm going to do, watch, 1/2 times 8 is easy to do. I'm going to do that. So half of 8 gives me 4, and in parentheses I still have 12 plus b. And so now I'm going to use the distributive property. 4 times 12 gave me 48. I copy the plus sign. 4 times b gave me 4b. And now I'm going to get rid of the 48 by subtracting 48 on both sides of the equation. So that gives me 60 equals 4b, and now I have to get rid of the 4 by dividing both sides by 4, so b equals 15. So the other base has to be 15 feet, and the reason I knew the label is I looked at one of the bases was 12 feet, so I labeled this 15 feet. And go ahead and write your movie clue. You can write it right here, and just write the word trapezoid.